back. Respect the Process. Kelly Hunter alongside Chris Stewart. And we're going to jump right in because we've got our dancing shoes on. Not that there was any doubt.
I'm not hosting an NIT first-round game. Yay!
Okay, here
So
we
much
go.
of my career was not. I say that.
No.
And those are always a blessing just to still be playing. And games are games. But this is what everybody's excited about. We got basketball in the state that matters again. Relevant games. Everybody's fired up about it. We got 2 4 seeds, and granted, it's not my team, but we got both the last year's and this year's.
Yes.
And 4 out of the last 5 years, the tournament champion has come from the state. You got Buckyball, which is a talk of everybody around the country and should be because they're going to beat Kansas.
Oh, it's going to be good.
And Andy Kennedy's got UAB back doing what UAB
Played a
has
great
done
weekend,
from the start.
a great brand of
awesome.
basketball.
I've almost completely forgotten about Friday.
I want to ask because, and I had this written down for us to get to at some point, but I think you were there. We were sitting with, this was, I can't remember if it was, what year it was, if it was 99 or 2001, when we were all sitting in Tuscaloosa, sitting with the team. They were a bubble team. And we were all sitting there watching. And I remember they got to the last region and we're waiting and we're waiting. And Alabama does not get called. Have you sat in one of those rooms before? Because that, I
No.
want to say you were, because I remember sitting in there and we're thinking, oh, any minute now they're going to get their name called.
Yeah.
And they never got their name called.
That was the team.
Oh.
I was not in the room. I was not there. I was not doing the radio
That's
yet.
just because I think of that every time we see the watch parties. Like you're sitting there and these teams are all watching.
That was the year, if I'm not mistaken, that Alabama got to 21 wins maybe.
Yes.
I'm almost positive this, whatever year it was.
Oh my gosh.
As your phone rings.
Phone is ringing.
This is live, semi-live. I love your ringtone,
I forgot to
first of all.
turn off my phone, everybody.
That's okay. Mine's been turned off. We're fine.
We're good now.
We're good now.
We're good now.
I think this shows the reality. I've gone and had choking fits and gotten water, and you get phone calls.
I get phone calls.
Whatever year this was we're talking about.
Yeah,
that
yes.
was the year that Godfrey and Alabama did not get in. It was fairly early. It was early in his tenure.
It really was.
Year 2,
and the only reason
maybe year 3.
I struggle to remember this because I blame having 4 children because the brain cells that remember these exact dates were sucked out by children. But I remember the feeling of sitting in there in that watch party.
Jim Herrick was the coach at Georgia. They only won 16 games that year, if I'm not mistaken.
And they got in.
But they had this, back when RPI mattered in basketball.
Yes.
They had a really high RPI. They had a really tough schedule. But he got in with 16 wins, and that's when Mark decided, I'm not going to go the Wimp Sanderson way because the Wimp way worked. Yeah. And Wimp's teams were great. That's not a shot. But Wimp knew how to play the system as it was. Nate's playing the system now.
Correct.
It helps if you're really good and you can win some of those games. But he played a brutally tough schedule, and it helped prepare them for the SEC. And that's why a team that was picked to finish 5th, had all those brand new guys, wound up tied for 2nd in the league, 1 game out of winning a championship for the 3rd time in 4 years. So yeah, that's if I'm not mistaken, that's
I think that was the year because I
and it was the last time for a long time that Mark didn't go. Mark went about 4 or 5 years straight.
It was, and then on the flip side, you see the celebration that Samford had yesterday. Oh. And I remember that was one of the most fun trips I ever got to go on was I traveled with Samford, and at the site was Indiana and Bobby Knight. And I remember being able to get in, because you go on the practice day when the media is allowed in, talk to the coaches, watch practice. And I just remember thinking I needed to make a mental note of this is big. Not only that Samford was there, but the fact that you had Bobby Knight and Indiana in the same building. That's what's so much fun about the NCAA tournament is those moments and just the fact that the little guys get their shot too.
Here's something else. I'll give you a little Samford history. Not that you or anybody else care.
No, we love it.
But I know this because my brother played at Samford literally when I was born. But I think it was his freshman or sophomore year, 1971, they won what was then called the Small College equivalent of Division II at the time, national championship. They were voted, won the Stag Bowl, which was the D2 bowl game then. They won a national title in 1971. I think that same year Livingston won the NAIA national championship. So they win that. But 3 years later, the school votes to drop football. There was a recruiting deal that was involved. They got on probation for that, and they just dropped football, and they said, we're going to go big time with our basketball program. Well, Samford didn't go to an NCAA tournament until, and it wasn't John Brady. John put the basketball program on the map.
Right.
He laid the foundation with Jimmy Tillett as his assistant. But Jimmy went to back-to-back tournaments. Until yesterday, when Samford had its name called, that's the only time in their history that they have been to the NCAA
I remember asking
tournament.
Jimmy when we were down there, I'm like, are you going to put somebody on your shoulders and we're going to measure like the height of the goal and everything, just like in Hoosiers, to make sure that they know that this is the exact same floor as they have back home?
They drew a buzzsaw, I think, one of those years that was unfair. But anyway, this is great for them, and I think the fact that they've got a playoff contending football team shows you can have both at that school. They've done a great job with it. Congratulations to Martin Newton and what he's built there with his staff and his department. But no, I'm happy, and I'm telling you, I'll be really surprised if they don't beat Kansas. The style will chew the Jayhawks up.
I think people that know Buckyball, that know Samford, we are like-minded because I feel the same way.
Here's the part people don't talk about.
What you need?
Bucky
that's your point. Like
Bucky's
my glasses.
A great head coach. No,
Yes.
Bucky's a great head coach. Special assistant to the head coach, Dwayne Rebowl, who was his coach at Birmingham Southern, who won 2 national championships at BSC. I got to broadcast the one in '95. One of his other assistants is Mitch Cole, who was a part of Dwayne's staff and then followed him as the head coach there when they went Division III. So those two coached Bucky. Yeah. And Mitch is now back on staff. There are a couple of others that I'm not as familiar with, but Danny Young, who took my alma mater, Montevallo, to the D2 national championship game, only
Also
time
on
they've
staff?
ever been. He's on there.
He's got a hell of a staff. I mean,
he's got a great staff.
He's put together a lot of local guys who know basketball
and built that roster really well. Yeah. And not just it's taken them 3 years now. Yeah. To get where they want to be, but fantastic job. And again, I don't know. I haven't even looked to see what's after Kansas for them.
So they're going to be playing out in Salt Lake City, and
great draw by the way.
We talk about now. So
location wise,
four teams from our state. We have Alabama, Auburn. We have Samford. We have UAB.
Yep. All
playing in the national in the men's NCAA tournament. 3 of them playing in Spokane, Washington.
Thankfully, only 2.
Are we going to carpool, or how does that?
I started to do a horse and buggy thing that had, if I could draw it all, I would have done a horse and buggy thing, having us go west, young man.
Okay, so when is the official, what are the travel plans for Alabama?
I don't know yet. As you and I talk, I don't know yet.
Because
you want me to check?
Well, out of curiosity, because the Alabama's first game is not till Friday.
Correct.
When they will play Charleston.
Correct.
And so technically, it would be probably nice to get out there, take off Wednesday, get out there Wednesday sometime, kind of get on schedule. Yeah. But then, so much what the next round guys were talking about this morning, and also it's just kind of a way of thinking. Do you pack to stay out there?
I think they do, because I was told the last time we went west, which was
because when you
San
go
Diego
west,
2 years ago,
after Spokane, if you keep winning past the next winter on the weekend, you would go down to Los Angeles.
Yeah, makes sense. Because you would have to come back and then turn around a day or two later. Yeah. To go, but I don't know.
I'm sure someone could find a laundromat or something to.
Managers always have that taken care of. They're covered. But yeah, it would be a nice problem to have. I will pack accordingly.
What do you think of the 4 seed?
Dead on the money.
Yeah.
I think it's dead on the money. I think it's a good draw. What I know, again, as you and I visit, it's on Monday, and I'm not going to tell you that I've poured into anything on any of these teams. But what I don't believe you have here is a potential matchup with either Charleston, Grand Canyon, or St. Mary's, where you've got a team that is like a San Diego State,
right?
That's like Florida, that's like Tennessee, that will beat you to death. Nothing wrong with that.
No.
It's just that's not a good matchup for Alabama.
No, and unlike Alabama, so much of what people have been talking about early is Auburn's draw, where after, should they beat Yale, then they could have the winner of the UAB San Diego State game.
Right.
Beyond that, they are in UConn's bracket. So that is a difficult row to hoe for Auburn, who ended up winning the SEC tournament this past weekend. Yeah. And we'll touch briefly on that with Alabama's kind of one and done up in Nashville in the tournament. We did not see a great performance Friday night from Alabama.
Oh, Lord, no.
We
did in the first 5 minutes. First 15 minutes, you got the lead, and then you lose it, and you never sniffed at it again.
Some guys are nicked up.
Were
nicked up.
That's the beauty of it, because look, there's no sugarcoating. You played poorly, but when Alabama hits the floor, unless something happens in practice, because that's what happened with Latrell Wrightsell and his injury. But unless something changes negatively, this team will be healthy and in condition and rested for the first time since they were playing their best basketball going into the Florida game. And it was into the Florida game when Latrell got hurt that week of practice. And it started really the decline.
Yeah.
This team was trending towards being exactly what I thought they would be, which is playing its best basketball in March and maybe playing in April. I said it 6 months before the season started, that based on what the roster was, that's where I thought they would be. They were there late in February, and then the injury occurred. And then as Latrell was coming back and able to play, then Rylan Griffin gets hurt.
Yeah.
Rylan played but was on some limited minutes from what I understand. And that game was so bad anyway. It was, Latrell's going to be fine from what I understand. He had to leave with an injury, but I think he's going to be just fine. So with that being the case, if that is indeed the case, this team goes back to playing like they are capable of. They should be fine to get to the round of 16. Not easy.
Yeah.
They could still lose the first game if you don't have your head on straight. But I'm looking at the top half of that West bracket, and I really like it. And then you see Arizona or Baylor probably.
Yeah.
If you're somehow able to get to the Elite Eight. And, again, you're talking about if things go chalk, you're talking about having to beat North Carolina and either Baylor or Arizona to go to the Final Four. I'll take that chance.
It's a good draw. It's a much better draw, I think.
Could have been worse.
Yeah, it's a much better draw than what Auburn and UAB have. Samford, I was telling my own kids, I was like, Samford could be that Cinderella team this year that through fate, fortune, and hard work might make it to the round of 16, Elite Eight if everything were to go their way. But just like you, I like their chances against Kansas. You get past that, a team like Purdue and their size.
But here's the interesting thing, though. If they win, I'm not going to be shocked that instead of the 4-5, which, again, it's Kansas and Gonzaga, they could both meet. Don't be shocked if it's a 12-13 game playing in the second round in that bracket, because McNeese, as much as I can't stand Will Wade, that's a really good team at McNeese. Gonzaga's not as good as they have been in years past. It could easily be 12 McNeese, 13 Samford to see who goes to the Sweet 16 and likely draws Purdue.
What do we need to get back from Grant Nelson? Because I feel like
I think legs under him is a big part of it. Now, look, he's got to play without fouling.
And that has been a big problem.
That sounds very simple. That has been a problem. I really like the look of he and Pringle playing together.
Mm-hmm.
Nate did that out of the gate the other day. I don't know what he's going to go with, but, Grant, I think, being rested and I say healthy, not that anything that I know of has been going on there, but I think being rested will be huge for him. You got to keep, because you can't have silly fouls early.
Yeah.
He's going to get his shots to go. I really believe that. I think he'll be back. And I think even as weird as it may sound, just being back west may help him a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know if it will or not. I'm just, I just got a feeling he's going to play really well in these matchups. These matchups will fit him better in the first game and potentially in the second. Now, again, as you and I visit now, I may be able to sit down later tonight and actually read notes after I get laundry done and get ready to head out for Lord only knows how long. But I think he is going to play very well. I think I'm excited to see Aaron Estrada play too, because I think didn't play great, I don't think, against Tennessee. I don't remember what his numbers were. Or not Tennessee, Florida. But I think he's got a chance to have a really big NCAA tournament. I do.
Well, and when you look at it, Alabama will have really only played one game in almost 2 weeks between playing their last regular season game against Arkansas, one game that's that Friday, and then again another almost 6-7 days because I know his back is nagging. So just to be able to get that amount of rest and treatment for these guys.
It's great. Now, look, I always laugh when people will ask me, do you think they did whatever on purpose? No. They're trying to win the tournament.
Well, because three of those four top teams all dropped on Friday night.
They did. The only one that won was Auburn, and that opened up the path for them. Not that Auburn wouldn't have beaten any of the top three teams.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna diminish what they did.
But Florida played a great tournament.
Alabama and Florida were interchangeable in that spot because they popped us twice in the 3 meetings that we had. Bama only won in overtime. I think Florida was probably a tougher matchup for Auburn. But that was an impressive run that Auburn had. Mm-hmm. But from Alabama's perspective, there's nothing good in the moment about losing. You never want to have that happen. You want to go all the way to the tournament finals. You want to win the thing. It's about winning what's in front of you. And you worry about the NCAA the next week. There's time to rest and recoup. That's why you've got the time spaced out, and they would have been fine with that. There's a lot of momentum that can be gained from winning a tournament. That being said, you take what you're dealt with next, and you go, okay, we're not playing, so let's be smart. They got up on Saturday. I had breakfast with them. They seem to be disappointed that they're having to leave the party early.
Yeah.
But there was a lot of conversation at every table about next week. Mm-hmm. And, let's go get it. Let's go get recharged. Yeah. You had a pretty short trip back to Tuscaloosa. You go heal up, rest up. They saw the selection show. I think they got Saturday and Sunday off, other than maybe some film study. Mm-hmm. Probably shot some Saturday night, or Sunday night, excuse me. But now today, you're going back to work. I don't know if that means early. I don't know what that schedule looked like. But I've got a feeling that Monday and Tuesday, pretty intensive of working on themselves.
Yeah.
working on Charleston, and then get on a plane probably Tuesday night or Wednesday morning. Go west, young man, and also, as we always say, send me west and I'll do the rest.
Yeah.
They've got a real opportunity, I think, to do. Bama's history is always good out west. I mean, the only time Bama's been to the Elite Eight, somebody texted me, hey, when we went to the Elite Eight, didn't we go to Spokane? No, it was Seattle, but it was in the state of Washington.
Yeah.
And then it was from there to Phoenix, where they lost to a buzzsaw of UConn in the Elite Eight, but, beat Syracuse and made it to the Elite Eight for the only time in school history. And I got a weird feeling. I have, like I said, for 6 months, this team has got a chance. Am I going to be floored if the issues that have been there plague them again and they get upset in the first round? No, I'm not going to be stunned.
Yeah.
But I'm also not going to be shocked if I'm having to do this with you by Zoom in a couple of weeks. I know we're off next week, but then the following week.
And it's hard because you can't really base it on recent history of, last year this team, because last year this was not the same team. They have so many new faces on this team that you can say, last year when they were preparing for their NCAA tournament run, you've got guys with experience, but again, this is a different team with different issues, because last year they had a whole host of off-the-court issues that they were trying to deal with and shield themselves from.
Everybody unfairly made them the enemy of the world, and that was wrong. But despite that, I still think it was an injury to Brandon Miller more so than the wear and tear of the spotlight. Mm-hmm. Healthy Brandon, and I think they beat San Diego State, and they're in the Final Four and probably win the whole thing. Just how I feel. No, I take that back.
Yeah.
Baylor was the buzzsaw.
Okay.
Wasn't it?
No, I agree. And
wasn't it Baylor?
Do you see a team this year that, when looking at the top seeds, that is the team to beat? Do you have a favorite when you're looking at
UConn?
You think UConn?
But so you got.
I think Kelvin
Purdue,
Sampson in Houston. I think I've watched them play, and that's a hell of a team he's got.
And here's the worst thing that could have happened for everybody else. So often you'll hear, just like you did with me about Alabama losing, it's the best thing that could happen to them. The worst thing that could happen for everybody else is that Houston got embarrassed.
Mm-hmm.
God help Longwood.
Yeah.
I think they will absolutely hurt Nebraska or Texas A&M, and that's not a shot at A&M. I don't know anything about Nebraska, really, other than Fred Hoiberg's a good coach.
Trev Alberts has to watch both teams.
Wow.
Yeah.
If I'm him, I don't go to that one.
You don't go to that game? Yeah, that's
I miss that game. I'm going to do the John Cohen deal when Mississippi State and Auburn played.
Uh-huh.
I think I'm going to
do the Homer Simpson fade back into the
head.
Yeah.
I didn't blame John for that. I would not blame Trev for this. He can't win.
The committee has a sense of humor.
He cannot win that particular battle. UConn is really, really good, obviously. If I'm picking one that's not, if I'm going head over heart, I'm probably taking Houston.
That's who I like, personally. But then again, I also have to remove my heart from my decisions, because I will traditionally just overthink these to death.
Mm-hmm.
And
as you know, I don't overthink much of anything. I don't think much of anything. That's the reason that
I also don't look before I leap either. So I think that's how we ended up here.
Thanks a lot.
No, but okay.
You're not the first woman that's told me that.
No, I will say that this is one of my favorite events that in all of sports.
I thought you meant the show.
The show too. I know I enjoy the show. This is one of my favorite events in all of sports. I enjoy the chaos. I enjoy watching dynasties. I enjoy watching upsets.
It used to be the month that we all envied more than any other time. Jim Nantz.
Oh my gosh!
You get to do the
from
NCAA
this straight to
the Final Four on Monday. To hello friends from Augusta.
The gentle voice welcoming us into Augusta National. Okay.
He's that nice a dude, too.
Before we finish up, I did want to ask about, so last week, we obviously Nick Saban went to Washington. And
it just sounds like a
Mr. Smith
1960s Disney flick. Or
so it was
50s.
Interesting because The Athletic, which is a great, I don't even want to call it a publication. Website. Thank you very much. They ran a poll asking, is Nick Saban right? 58% of respondents said, yes, this is getting out of control. 41% said, no, coaches need to adapt and get better.
First of all, in 2 years, everybody will say, what did Nick say? Because as he gets a year or two removed from being the Alabama head coach and is just the smartest man in the room,
he shows up at ESPN when he wants to, and
then it'll be, well, what does coach say?
But what was interesting was at the meeting, there were politicians, there were representatives from different groups, but Greg Byrne was there, who is the athletic director for Alabama. He also had on one of the Yay Alabama pins, which is the collective. Mm-hmm. Does this put him in an awkward position?
How so?
As the athletic director, because you have Nick Saban, who is kind of saying that he is saying that these collectives and these NILs are getting out of control, and we need to put parameters on them. And then we have, the collective at Alabama that is assisting in this. And I was just curious, as the athletic director, does it put him in an odd position between Nick Saban and
I don't
all
think,
of those?
No, because I'll tell you why. The collective never would have started if Nick Saban didn't endorse it.
Okay.
That never
starts. Obviously he approved of Yay Alabama.
But my point of that is, I would never speak for Greg, but I know Greg pretty well. And I would be surprised if Greg wasn't completely in lockstep with, or very, very close to it, with what Coach Saban said. Mm-hmm. But here's the thing. Are you going to, as Nick Saban did with all the rule changes that occurred towards the end of his tenure, you can say, is this what we really want it to be? Mm-hmm. And if that's what the vote is and what the rules become, you can either put your foot down and just go, well, I don't agree with that. Okay, that's fine, but that's what the rules are. Mm-hmm. Or you can go, I don't agree with it, but I'm going to adapt, and I'm still going to try to get it changed. Yeah. So the man did that, whether you're talking about the hurry up, no huddle, the RPO stuff, same thing with name, image, and likeness. And I think it's why Greg was there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I've got to do the collective thing because that's what's going to allow us to remain relevant and compete at the highest level. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean that I'm for them.
Okay. Yeah.
That's what the rule is right now, and that's what we're competing with and against. And I may not like the fact that we're having to do it, but today that's what you've got to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't do it today, you're going to fall behind. It's Clemson.
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for Dabo. Dabo has been pretty true to his beliefs and his principles, and Dabo fell behind.
Right.
Okay? I don't know if he's going to be able to recover from that. Probably can. Great coach, really good program, historically not at the top, but in the next tier. Certainly in the last 10 years, it's been right there in the conversation with Alabama and Georgia.
Well, and I have to believe he's losing out on recruits as well as obviously the transfer portal.
So with that being said, you can fight against it and still do what the rules are as they are and compete and try to get them changed. And I think that's just being smart.
Yeah.
You're standing up for what you think is the right thing to do. At the same time, whether you want that train to go down the tracks or not, it has.
Right.
So you better get on. You can get on, or you can get left completely. and they're on the train. They're trying to get it to stop, but they made sure they were on the train, which is to me the right thing. They had to do it.
Yeah. No, I was just curious because it was just.
And I hadn't thought about it that way until you said it.
Yeah, just the more you see them sitting there together, and then I remembered reading an article where it did say he had on the Yay Alabama pin, and I was like, well, as you said,
that's twofold. That's also Nick Saban, former coach at Alabama.
Right.
Greg Byrne, advocate for rules change, but still a supporter.
Correct.
And still an employee of Alabama, trying to get things. We're trying to win now and fix the game for the future.
Right.
I think that's what you see with that.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Okay, so we are going to be getting ready for basketball. We've got our play-in game starting tomorrow night.
You
Tuesday
mean the
night?
first four? How dare we call it the play-in?
The play-in games.
Even though it's
the play-in games start in Dayton, and then obviously you'll be heading west at some point over the next day or two.
That's the reason we've cut this a little shorter
I know.
than usual.
I mean,
There's
that's
so much
the
more
thing.
we could have gone, but thanks to you.
We have a lot
thanks to everybody
going on.
else for working it in too.
We got a lot going on. We will be catching up with you out west, and spring break is next week, so we'll be taking our week off because there's no telling. It'll be where in the world is Chris Stewart next week.
Usually it's why in the world is Chris Stewart.
That's good.
But this time it's
where in the world. But we can always find you at chrisstewart.online.
That's just the bio. Chris, at C Stewart Sports is where you'll find me on X. That's where anything current usually goes.
Yep.
That's where it's usually going.
And we can always find you on the Crimson Tide Sports Network.
Hope so.
Broadcasting one of many different athletic adventures for Alabama.
Football and basketball. I've had people ask real quick. I know we're up against clock, but shout out to Rob Vaughn and Alabama baseball, opening up conference play, taking 2 out of 3 from number 5 Tennessee. This is right on track for what I predicted. The last year that Alabama baseball made it to Omaha in the College World Series was the season before I started doing play-by-play, 1999.
I went on that one. I went to that one.
From 2000 to 2023, they got close a couple of times, never made it. Now that I have retired as the radio broadcaster, I have no doubt whatsoever
that they
will be in Omaha this year for the first time in 25 years.
You make a lot of predictions.
I do, and I feel really good about both of these. I'll be fine.
You're like the old Johnny Carson.
That's Carnac the Magnificent. I would be happy because it would mean that Alabama baseball is in Omaha, but Bama basketball in Phoenix for the Natty.
That wouldn't be bad. You might even be able to take your clubs for that, too.
We'll see how that plays out.
See how that goes. But you can keep up with everything here from the NCAA tournament to everything else going on with the next round every single day. A big thanks to Scott Forrester, who always crushes it for us, and always can find Chris Stewart on all of his socials, as well as chrisstewart.online. We are entering the best 4 weeks of sports, in my opinion, and I look forward to seeing you back here in a couple weeks, because I'm hoping you stay out on the West Coast for a good long run with Alabama.
I mean it lovingly and respectfully. I hope I don't see you
exactly.
for about a month.
That's what I mean. I hope I don't see you for a while, because that means that Alabama basketball is doing well.
Again, not the first woman that's said that to me. But anyway.
Yeah, I'm just the most recent. So
check my messages.
For Scott Forrester, for Chris Stewart, I am Kelly Hunter. We look forward to seeing you back here again. And before we go,
Roll Tide.
Take care. We'll see y'all next time.